Today we're going over the 10.5 refinds in Fire Emblem Heroes. In Part 1 we'll cover Fallen Muarim, Marcia, Niime, and Rennac. Part 2 will feature dual Erica/Ephraim, plus the remixes for Mythic Goto and Freyr. Fallen Muarim is a heroic row blue beast infantry. He's decently fast with good attack, and has higher HP with the usual higher defense stat spread for a Laguz. First things first, Muarim is a rare beast unit with a unique transformation condition. He will always transform on turns 2 and 4, but reverts on turns 1 and 3. Turn 5 onward, he will stay transformed. This was before we had skills that let beasts bypass the transformation conditions. Muarim has the usual tempo with 7 true damage on special perks modern infantry beasts have, but he will take 5 recoil damage after attacking, be aware of that. Now onto Wild Tiger Fang's other effects. At start of turn and after acting, Muarim inflicts -7 onto all stats, sabotage, and flash statuses onto foes within 5 spaces. For his own combat, Muarim gets +2 flat attack. He also gets +6 attack and speed, and +5 defense and res in combat. Muarim neutralizes all field buffs on the enemy during combat. He also gets 15 flat damage reduction for all hits. For the special upgrade part, Muarim gets another +5 stats in combat. He neutralizes his own attack and speed debuffs. He deals 22 damage per hit, and he gets 50% DR piercing. Pretty important thing to note, Muarim's debuffing range is not global to the closest foe. -7 debuffs plus sabotage should double this up, and then flash is pretty good, but you need to be within 5 spaces of the enemy. If you don't close the gap, or you don't have some kind of extra action tactics, then you might miss out. Muarim can hit everyone within those 5 spaces though. As for Muarim's combat, this refine added some standard stuff, but nothing too crazy. 20 true damage, 15 flat DR, and 50% piercing. Muarim only gets +11 or +10 stats, but he does have built-in low with partial debuff neutralization to have some stat control in the fight. One way to leverage Muarim's shorter range debuffs is to just let the enemy approach you. You can always set up your ice terrain forts to slow down their approach, then punish on the next turn. Another way is to dance Muarim or use Emblem Micaiah's self-refresh after assisting. Muarim can get closer to the enemy, apply his debuffs, then get Micaiah's extra action from her ring. Now, for assist skills, while reposition is fine, perhaps you could also try draw back or pivot to get closer. For this type of build, you can use Favor to stack its stat buffs with Wild Tiger Fang's debuffs. As for mobility, Muarim would like +1 movement and or Kanto. Usually Brutal Tempest or Tumultuous Echo fills both needs, but you could split that into Swift Spectre and another Tempest C skill. Swift Spectre gives no follow-up with bonus true damage along with Kanto Distance. You can pair that with Pulse Tempest, Tempest Burst, or the newer Burst of Thunder, which adds cooldown. This would be nice with Favor's cooldown effects, and you could trigger Nimble Beast or other 3 cooldown specials in 2 hits. This build is mainly focused on offense, but if foes have flash, then Muarim could stay safe anyway. It's a bit risky, but this could also allow him to trigger things like Gale Force or maybe charge an AoE special. For a more combat-focused setup, Muarim can use Comet or the brand new Sturdy Laguz on Fallen Tabarin. This 5 cooldown special scales off 100% defense, has 40% DR for first attacks, and has breath type cooldown with guard if you're transformed. That's really nice with the beast infantry's tempo effects. Sadly, without slaying, you may still want -1 cooldown from elsewhere, like times Pulse. To go with Sturdy Laguz, Fallen Tabarin also has Dark Beast Agility, which has no follow-up, along with some true damage, flat DR, and stat debuffs. We can stack more flat DR with Warriors or Duelist Blow, and then pair up or Patience if you are committing to the full defense stacking. For other options, you can use Accelerate skills, Finish Beast skills, and Dark Beast Force or Preempt Screech. These Beast skills all come with few to deny enemy support auras. Super strong effect, plus with Muarim's flash, you could really mess up anyone who gets too close. For some other skill options, there are Sly A skills, Finish A skills or Sacred Seals, and the Wild Beast A skills can give breath type cooldown with healing. Bestial Agility for no follow-up, Bestial Assault for more DR piercing. Both of these have Kanto if you're transformed. As for C skills, Muarim has a lot of options, but Faith is nice for self-buffing, Bulwark, and another -1 cooldown source. For seals, you can go with Potent or Counter Roar if you want more % DR. There are many Echo skills you can use. Momentum for cooldown would help a lot, or Muarim could use Puissant for a 100% potent hit. If you really want the extra hit, Patience might be better if you're going for full defense stacking for Sturdy Laguz. Puissant still requires a speed check with the enemy. Patience is guaranteed since Muarim is over 30 speed. Overall, Fallen Muarim requires good positioning, but his sabotage debuffing with flash is quite good if they do land and aren't countered. Next, Marcia is a Lance Flyer demo with decent speed. She's gotten a new weapon called Petulant Lance. At start of every turn, Marcia grants +1 movement to herself plus infantry and armored allies within 2 spaces. For foes within 3 rows or columns, Marcia inflicts -5 stats and neutralizes their field buffs. For herself, Marcia gets 15 flat damage reduction and heals 7 HP after combat. For the special upgrade, Marcia gets Near Trace 4 Conto. She gets +5 stats in combat, deals 20 true damage, and gets full and follow-up effects. Petulant Lance basically has a built-in Rain Snap effect for extra team mobility. It also has the longer Crux range for -5 debuffs, and you can have low to get rid of field buffs. For herself, Marcia has Conto to go with her 3 movement. She has the very simple combat perks of 20 true damage, 15 flat DR, and no follow-up. To lean into the support effects, you could stack more long-range Crux debuffs in the C slot or with the Echo version. Uplift was another flyer support skill that works from long range, but you have to be in line with the allies instead of enemies. For Marcia, she already has no follow-up for herself, but if you wanted to give it to allies, you could use no uplift. Otherwise, Uplift Imbue can provide healing instead. Another support option is to stack the +1 movement buffs with general flyer warping skills. Guidance, Soaring Echo, or Hold Guide can give Marcia herself to space warping. Last, Marcia does have Conto, so you could run Shadow C skills. You could also run a Favorite B skill if you really want to focus on helping. Now for Marcia's own combat, she doesn't have a lot of fancy perks, but you can always pair no follow-up with Trample's Desperation for a double tap. You can then add Potent skills for a 3 tap, like with Air Superiority or Potent Assault. Even better, you could run the new Potent Echo for a 100% potent hit. The other thing Marcia could use is some cooldown. Besides good old Heavy Blade, you can try to get Breath type cooldown from Momentum B skills or Echo, Strat Flame, or Execution Breath. The +1 movement buffs can help Momentum get its -2 instant cooldown. For the B slot, Impetus Assaults with 50% DR piercing would typically be better for Desperation builds, but if you don't think you can avoid a hit, then Impetus Guard's Scowl and Flat DR may be more valuable. In addition, for non-trample builds, you can stack more Flat DR with Excel or even just Blue Skies, Sacred Seal included. Technically, Blue Sky Gust can also give a better Conto effect. That Conto distance could be more important if you want to run Air Superiority or Heaven Soar for their long-range warping. Going back to specials, Haze Slice can trigger in 3 hits, which would work with a Trample and Potent setup. Preferably, you want Prison Echo to get the 100% hit for Haze Slice. Now, if you want the big damage specials, Marcia will need more cooldown. Shatter Slash and Arch Rival have 40% DR for first attacks and can trigger in either phase. If you use Haze Slice or Gale Force Mist, that's locking you into player phase primarily. As for Celestial Form, you need to charge it before getting hit, which requires cooldown, or you're just banking on the enemy to proc a special themselves. Overall, Petulant Lance's +1 movement is nice, but it has some very basic combative effects. Low and no follow-up are good to have, but you really want to give Marcia some more impactful perks if you're looking to get into a fight. Next, Niime is an old 5-star colorless infantry mage with the fairly typical higher attack and res with some speed stat spread. I believe she was the first colorless mage to not have a unique weapon, and we still don't have any arcane options. Niime will now get her own Darkness Town. At start of either phase, grant Anathema, Draconic Hex, and Hexblade to allies within 2 spaces for 1 turn. Niime gets Slaying and +9 stats in combat. She also gets 7 flat DR with a free follow-up attack. For the special upgrade part, Niime gets +10 stats in combat, 20 true damage, and instant cooldown before her first attack equal to X. This X value is the number of allies with Anathema active, including Niime. If you have 2 or more allies with the status, Niime can get -3 instant cooldown max. Niime has the usual standard stats, true damage, flat DR, and a free follow-up since she typically isn't that fast. She hands out a variety of hexes, the good kind I think. Draconic Hex is typically Corrin status that tries to inflict -10 to all stats on the foe unless they have debuffs. Hexblade gives adaptive damage. Last, Anathema inflicts -4 speed, defense, and res on foes within 3 spaces. Assuming the enemy has no field debuffs, Niime could inflict another -14 stats in combat for her team. If you can group up, Anathema does stack, and that's when it can get pretty powerful. Niime will want some friends around because she gets instant cooldown if they keep Anathema active. With Slaying, Niime could potentially fire off a 4 cooldown special immediately. Niime provides some fun stat support that can get by debuff neutralization. Since she has higher base res, Niime could run the typical res comparing support skills. The new Unrest B skill also inflicts in-combat debuffs, plus allies get anti-healing. You can pair that with Crystalline or Stillwater or the Squad Ace CY Sacred Seal for more flat res. For specials, Niime doesn't need Pulse Up to trigger 4 cooldown Ice Wall or Frost Moon. She also doesn't need it for Logic or Comet because those specials have their own -1 cooldown method. For Logic, it only gives -1 cooldown if the foe has a penalty, so that's where something like a Ploy C skill can matter. Another way to inflict debuffs is with Havoc B skills. It's not in combat like Unrest, but Havoc's -7 debuffing with Sabotage to double up can be pretty good. While Niime can instantly charge these higher cooldown specials, if the foe survives you may want some protection. Ice Wall will ready its one-time 40% DR, while Logic's 40% DR is active for all hits. This only applies to player phase though. For damage reduction on enemy phase, Comet works better, although it only applies to first attacks. Now, to bolster our % DR specials, Niime can stack flat DR using Unrest, Low Finish, or the brand new Demonic Force on Fallen Male Violet. Demonic Force is an updated Magic Gambit. It grants true damage and flat DR based on your special cooldown value. For Slaying, 4 cooldown Logic and Comet, it would grant 20 true damage and 12 flat DR. Not too shabby, plus it also negates debuffs and gives Preempt Pulse. Demonic Force is a selfish skill, so if you want to go for a full combat build, then pair that with Arya in the A slot. It too grants true damage based on special cooldown value. Between Darkness Tome, Arya, and Demonic Force, I think that would be 60 true damage total. Now, very similar idea, but way less powerful, finished skills work nicely with our instant special playstyle. A, B, and Sacred Seal versions all can work. If you want to get a bit spicy, Niime could try for double specials using Breath type cooldown from say Conjuring Breath, and then Pulse On's -2 instant cooldown on follow-up attacks. If Niime can tank a hit and get her follow-up, then it's a possible option. For other skills, Niime can run any cooldown effects like Times Pulse to offset enemy scal effects. Mages have Flare or Magic Light for lower cooldown special options. To go with her debuff statuses, Niime could run Low Echo. If you want to try and tank information with say Anathema stacking, then you could use Silence Ward or Nosy Disrupt Echo, and maybe even Close Transcend for close counter. I'm not going to vouch for the 17 defense mage, but hey, with enough attack debuffs, % DR and flat DR, anything is possible. In conclusion, Niime can lean into the typical high-res hybrid support builds a lot of mages can run. If you did want to get a bit more hands-on, we have got some new mage B skills to try like Unrest or Demonic Force. Our last refine for part 1 is a bit of a surprise. Rennac is an old 5-star green infantry dagger. He's got decent speed, but this refine may put combat as a secondary concern for Rennac. Rennac's weapon is the Thief's Dagger. For Rennac and allies within 3 rows or columns, grant +5 stats, preempt pulses -1 instant cooldown, and if they outspeed, they get no follow-up effects. For himself, Rennac will get Slaying, 20 true damage, and 7 flat DR. For the special upgrade, Rennac gets another +10 stats with no guard. Last, Rennac gains Kanto 2, and when Kanto triggers, Rennac gets to use Shadow Sing or Dance. In terms of combat, Rennac has some decent cooldown perks, Slaying, no guard and preempt pulse support. He also hands out no follow-up to allies, and you got the usual +15 stats with 20 true damage and 7 flat DR. The interesting part of this refine is the Kanto 2 with Marianne's Shadow Dance ability. Extra actions are always powerful, and we have things like Emblem Bodice Ring that could allow Rennac to refresh 2 allies in 1 turn. You can also attack with Rennac, proc Kanto, then use Dance after. Since he comes with Disarm Trap, Rennac can also step on a trap to disarm it, break a structure, and then Kanto and Dance an ally all in 1 turn. That's some pretty good utility, and very fitting considering Rennac is a late joining rogue. Not exactly the best combat unit in Sacred Stones, so leaning into his utility for the refine is a nice touch. Let's actually talk about combative skills for Rennac first. He has no follow-up and 3 cooldown effects, so there is some potential if left untouched. With Slaying, Preempt Pulse, and no guard, Rennac could use Arch Rival and trigger it against blue foes in 2 hits. For other enemies or other higher cooldown specials, you're probably gonna need Flashing Blade or Execution Breath. Combat can give % DR on either phase, while Lethality can give full DR piercing. As a side effect of this refine, Rennac cannot, or should not, use any of the Lookout C skills. Their Shadow Dance and Swamp effect is going to cancel Rennac's Shadow Dance. This does mean we can't get the 3 movement from Lookout Rush, the Scal effect from Lookout Smog, or Desperation from Active Lookout. Since he has no follow-up, this also means the Dagger only attack and speed waylay is a bit redundant. In the A slot, besides something like Slash with Sparrow or attack and speed finish, Rennac could use Hex Edge. It does require a magic ally, and Rennac cannot seem to escape a certain healer, so he can at least get some extra true damage with 50% DR piercing. As for support skills, Rennac has Disarm Trap by default. You could upgrade to Disarm Rumor, which now inflicts -7 speed and defense in Discord. Full Disarm or Potent Disarm work too, but Rumor is the only supportive option. Now, there is the new attack and defense Clear A skill from Young Dual Edelgard. Clear is Disarm Trap in the A slot. That could allow Rennac to run another supportive B skill if you want to keep the Disarm Trap utility. Speaking of B skills, you can trigger Link buffs or Ruse debuffs, then use Kanto for the Shadow Dance. Naturally, Favor is a really strong option for this playstyle. You got Field buffing, Empathy for in-combat buffs, 50% piercing, and a cooldown support. That all works nicely with Thief's Dagger's long-range buffing. For the C slot, dual support would be really nice with ranks are fine. plus 10 attack and speed total, 5 true damage, 5 flat DR, and full tempo support. You could instead run Infantry Pulse for more cooldown support. Maybe if Rennac is stacking HP to disable those hex traps, it's an option. One selfish skill that would be nice is Oath 4. Rennac would get self-filled boss, but more importantly, he can get the regular warp status. If there was a downside to this refine, I would say that Rennac can't get extended mobility to reach more allies for his dancing. Warping would help create more options, and you could also run Mercy Wing Echo to get across map in clutch situations. Rennac could even score a finishing blow before dancing. For some other skills, Rennac could use Defensive Link as a Sacred Seal to go with, say, Attack and Speed Favor. We have basic field buffing or debuffing options, or you could stack in-combat effects with Spurs and Drives. If you need HP to disarm traps, then Squad Ace is always available. Last, for real cheap options, since he has no follow-up, Rennac could use Wind or Water Sweep to ignore counterattacks and still double. He can then set up smoke debuffs or out-of-combat damage perks like from Poison Strike or Savage Blow. Not really an advanced tactic, but hey, if you'd rather attack before dancing, then it's an option. Overall, Rennac gets a nice little niche for himself. Shadow Dance can push him into full utility rogue mode. That'll be it for part 1 of the 10.5 refines. Let me know your thoughts and have fun with the new skills. Next, in part 2, we'll cover dual young Erica and Ephraim along with the remixes for Goto and Freyr. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.